Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Welcome, curious minds, to The Deep Dive, the place where we sift through the most critical global events, scientific breakthroughs, and massive economic shifts to give you the coherent narrative you need to navigate this fast-moving world.
Today, we are undertaking what can only be described as a monumental deep dive because the global landscape is defined by some unbelievable paradoxes right now.
It really is.
We're talking about scientists validating quantum computing results that used to require, millennia of calculation?
Millennia, yeah.
And now they can solve it in minutes. And at the exact same time, the architects of this whole artificial intelligence boom are, simultaneously creating six-figure blue-collar jobs and slashing traditional white-collar roles.
That economic whiplash is intense enough. But then you have, and this one I love, the existential question of evolution raised by the shocking dietary habits of wild chimpanzees.
I know, right?
Who apparently have developed a taste for fermented fruit and are averaging the equivalent of 2 cocktails every single day.
2 cocktails, yeah, that's right. And our mission today is to connect these wildly disparate dots. We are exploring the underlying forces driving global change, from, these subtle shifts in primate consumption habits to the massive power plays happening in quantum labs, the deep cosmos, and of course, geopolitical theaters.
We really need to understand why these stories matter now and how they define our near future.
Exactly.
We've got an extensive roadmap for you today. We're starting with breakthroughs in future tech and the massive push for clean energy efficiency. Then we'll dive headfirst into the dual reality of the AI economy. You mentioned it, the gold rush and the job loss. After that, we'll analyze global power struggles, including diplomatic efforts in Ukraine and military accountability issues in the Americas, before wrapping up with seismic economic shifts and some surprising developments in public health and deep geology.
So let's get straight into it.
Let's get straight into part 1, the new physics and the energy future. So let's kick off with something genuinely revolutionary in material science: graphene. For years, graphene, which is essentially a single layer of carbon atoms arranged in a honeycomb lattice, has been the material of the future that was perpetually just out of reach.
It's always been 5 years away.
Always. Nobel laureates Andrei Geim and Konstantin Novoselov isolated it back in 2004, and its theoretical properties have always been breathtaking. Strongest, thinnest, most conductive material known. And now, engineers are finally delivering on that promise.
Yeah, they're manipulating those carbon structures into highly curved, accessible graphene networks. And this specific advance is a huge deal, focusing on the development of new supercapacitors.
Okay, so supercapacitors, they're fundamentally different from the lithium-ion batteries in all our phones, right?
Totally different. A supercapacitor leverages graphene's outstanding electrical conductivity to dramatically improve energy storage because it stores energy electrostatically, not chemically.
Right. And that mechanical difference is the core reason for the massive shift. Traditional batteries store energy by moving ions through a chemical reaction, which is slow, and it degrades the battery over time.
That's why your phone battery needs hours to charge and, eventually just dies after a few years.
Exactly.
Precisely. The technical details here point to a potential end to that chemical compromise. Supercapacitors store energy by accumulating charges on physical surfaces. In this case, these incredibly high surface area graphene networks.
And this allows them to do what?
It allows them to charge in mere minutes, even seconds, compared to hours. And crucially, these new designs now maintain a high energy density, which used to be the big trade-off.
So we get the speed of traditional capacitors and the capacity we need for real-world applications. What about longevity and safety? I mean, lithium-ion batteries are prone to forming dendrites, which shorten the battery's life and pose serious fire risks.
The safety element is one of the most compelling arguments for mass adoption. Because supercapacitors avoid those volatile chemical reactions, they're inherently safer and offer massive cycle stability. Meaning they can charge and discharge thousands of times without significant degradation. Think about the implications for heavy electric transport systems, buses, trains, heavy-duty trucks that need to be operational almost constantly.
Wow.
If you can fully recharge a massive vehicle in 5 to 10 minutes, you remove one of the biggest logistical hurdles to electric mass adoption.
And it's not just electric vehicles, I assume.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We're talking about stabilizing power grids that rely on fluctuating renewable sources like solar and wind. Fast, efficient storage that can handle rapid influx and outflow of energy is the missing link to make renewables truly reliable at scale.
And this isn't just theory anymore, is it?
No, not at all. Companies like Nanotech Energy are aggressively paving the way for mass production methods, moving from the laboratory proof of concept to, an industrial scale-up. The challenge now is cost reduction and integrating these new form factors into existing infrastructure.
Okay, so if we follow the chain of logic here, this quest for faster, safer, better energy storage is directly linked to the massive, almost terrifying energy appetite for our next topic, the boom in artificial intelligence.
It's the perfect analytical transition because if we don't solve the energy density and speed problem of storage with things like graphene, the computing demands we're about to discuss our new global infrastructure problem.
Speaking of things that break classical physics and require massive energy, let's talk quantum computing. The promise of quantum is incredible speed for solving problems classical computers just can't touch, but there's always been this massive catch.
The validation.
The validation, exactly. Verifying that the results from devices like Gaussian boson sampling, or GBS, are actually correct.
And that validation challenge was the current hurdle to market viability. I mean, Gaussian boson sampling devices use photons to perform calculations, which is a powerful way to demonstrate quantum advantage. But verifying that the highly complex probability distribution produced by a GBS is correct was, well, it was computationally impossible.
Impossible how?
Like previously, verifying a single quantum result could take, theoretically, millennia of classical computing power.
That completely undermines the utility. Why invest billions in a quantum computer if verifying its output takes longer than the age of human civilization?
It creates a profound confidence issue in the whole process,
Of course.
But now, scientists have announced a new methodology for rapid validation. They found a clever mathematical shortcut that essentially allows them to check the validity of the quantum state in mere minutes.
And this isn't just about speed, is it?
No, it's about establishing trust and integrity in the fundamental methodology of quantum computation.
And what's truly astonishing, as reported in the initial findings, is that this rapid validation immediately exposed unexpected errors in critical experiments.
Ones they thought were flawless.
Right. They were previously assumed to be perfect.
And that proves its immediate value. It wasn't just confirming what researchers thought was right. It was revealing unknown flaws in the quantum setups themselves, maybe vulnerabilities in entanglement procedures or device calibration. This ability to instantly audit the results, it strengthens the credibility of the entire quantum methodology.
And pushes it closer to commercial readiness.
It does. And that reliability is key, especially as we look to the cosmos. This rapid validation links perfectly to another fascinating science discovery at the University of California, Irvine. The discovery of a new state of quantum matter.
Okay, a new state of matter.
Yes, this is exotic stuff. This new phase occurs when electrons and holes, a hole, is essentially just the absence of an electron pair up and spin collectively in a stable, condensed, liquid-like state. Researchers are calling it an excitonic insulator.
A liquid-like quantum matter. So why should we care about this?
What makes it immediately important for space is its exceptional resilience to radiation. When you're thinking about deep space travel, radiation is the #1 enemy of sensitive electronics. It causes rapid degradation and data corruption.
And this new quantum matter is far more stable under those conditions.
Exactly. And if we look even further down the line, beyond just basic shielding, researchers suggest this could pave the way for self-charging computers for long-duration missions.
Self-charging computers.
Exactly. Imagine essential computing systems on a mission to, say, Europa or Pluto that are inherently resilient and perpetually able to use environmental or radiation energy sources to charge.
Wow.
This concept dovetails with the idea of using, bioengineered solutions like Martian bacteria to process local materials on other planets for self-sustaining habitats.
So if our electronics are radiation-resistant and self-charging, our prospects for autonomous, long-haul space exploration and eventual colonization are significantly enhanced. From the quantum realm, let's look up and check in on our celestial neighborhood, starting with the sun. Astronomers recently detected a significant X-class solar flare.
An X-class flare is the most intense category, signifying a huge burst of radiation and plasma that can reach Earth. This is a crucial data point for space weather monitoring. It's magnificent to observe, but it poses real, tangible risks to our satellite operations.
And not just satellites, right? Communication systems, and most critically, power grid stability right here on Earth.
That's the one people forget.
How does something 93 million miles away actually impact our power grid?
The mechanism is called geomagnetically induced currents. When the plasma and magnetic field from the flare hit Earth's magnetosphere, they cause rapid fluctuations in our magnetic field. These fluctuations induce currents in long conductors, like high-voltage transmission lines.
And if those currents are strong enough,
They can overload and potentially destroy transformers, leading to widespread power outages. It really underscores how dependent our modern technological infrastructure is on the relatively stable behavior of a massive plasma ball in the sky.
and we should briefly celebrate the unsung heroes monitoring this.
Yeah.
This year marks the 30th anniversary of NASA's, that's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's, Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, or ESO.
SOHO is an absolute cornerstone of solar science. It launched back in 1995 as a joint project between NASA and the European Space Agency, the ESA. 30 years of continuous operation, providing millions of images and scientific measurements. It's incredible.
Just constantly tracking solar wind, coronal mass ejections, and flares.
Right. SOHO not only aids prediction, but provides the foundational data we need to understand the deep physics of our star. Without it, our preparedness for space weather risks would be significantly diminished.
Okay, shifting gears to deep space. Astronomers are excited about the eruption of Comet 3I Atlas.
Comet 3I Atlas's eruption provides a fascinating and pretty rare opportunity. As it leaves our solar neighborhood, astronomers get a chance to study its composition and behavior up close. This isn't a typical slow burn, it's a sudden release of material.
Why does a comet eruption matter, though? Isn't it just cosmic dust?
Not at all. Comets are essentially icy, rocky time capsules of the solar system's earliest, most pristine days. They hold clues about the volatile materials, water, carbon compounds that eventually seeded Earth.
So any display of unexpected activity like this eruption offers valuable clues about their internal structure.
Exactly. How porous they are, the specific conditions under which they formed billions of years ago. It gives us a peek into the engine room of a primordial celestial body.
It's incredible. So speaking of massive things with huge appetites, let's pull back to Earth and examine the massive, swelling energy consumption problem that AI is creating. This leads us directly into part 2, the AI economy's dual reality.
Let's do it.
This is where technology slams into infrastructure limits. We just talked about the urgent need for new energy solutions like graphene supercapacitors because the digital world, specifically data centers, has a ravenous energy appetite.
Ravenous is the right word. We have some alarming statistics that really crystallize this crisis. Global data center energy consumption is forecast to soar nearly 300% by 2035,
300%.
hitting approximately 1,300 terawatt hours, or TWH, annually.
Okay, 1,300 TWH sounds like a huge abstract number. What does that actually mean for the average person paying their utility bill?
It means real economic strain, and it's happening right now. In regions adjacent to major U.S. data center hubs, places often selected for cheap land, and power wholesale electricity prices have already risen by as much as 267% in just 5 years.
267%.
New 5 years. And that cost hike doesn't stay confined to the wholesale market. It's passed directly on to consumers and businesses. It strains household budgets, makes manufacturing more expensive, and it threatens national climate goals.
So grid operators simply can't integrate sustainable solutions fast enough to keep up with the demand curve being dictated by big tech.
Exactly. And that explains the urgency cited by the International Energy Agency, or IEA. They are underscoring the absolute necessity for grid operators worldwide to adapt immediately and fundamentally rethink how they power these facilities.
And if we don't?
If we don't, we risk potential energy supply crises, which could undermine the digital economy and force us to fall back on less sustainable, carbon-intensive power sources just to keep the lights on and the models training.
This is the duality at its starkest. AI promises massive efficiency gains, but its foundational infrastructure demands an unsustainable amount of physical, carbon-intensive energy. It's an economic paradox we have to resolve.
And that struggle for AI dominance is playing out aggressively in the hardware and software sectors, marking territory for the next decade of computing.
Let's start with the current king of the hill, NVIDIA. They're not just selling chips, they're tightening their grip on the entire AI chip design stack.
Right, through a strategic $2 billion investment in Synopsys, a global leader in chip design software. That's called electronic design automation, or EDA.
It's a very shrewd move toward vertical integration, isn't it?
It is. By acquiring influence in Synopsys, NVIDIA aims to integrate AI tools directly into the semiconductor manufacturing process to optimize performance and reliability. They're effectively creating a closed-loop system where their chips are designed using AI tools powered by, well, their own chips.
But analysts, especially on the left-leaning financial commentary side, are raising concerns about potential bubbles in the AI sector. They're suggesting that this rapid capital growth might lead to significant overvaluation.
And while the bubble concern is valid, proponents, including many venture capitalists, argue this integration of AI-driven design is necessary to maintain the relentless pace of innovation required. It empowers engineers to significantly enhance productivity and reduce the time to market for complex processors,
Making future AI systems cheaper and more powerful, which, in their view, justifies the high valuation.
Exactly.
Stepping onto that stage and challenging NVIDIA's dominance is Amazon, who is attempting to break free from dependency with their own chip.
Yeah, the unveiling of the Trainium 3 chip for its AWS, or Amazon Web Services cloud service.
And what's the play here?
Amazon's Play is designed specifically for training complex machine learning models. It offers a reported performance boost that's fourfold over its predecessor. This move towards self-reliance on proprietary hardware is essential for cloud giants seeking to control their own costs, their infrastructure roadmap, and crucially, their supply chain security.
Right. Shifting to the software side, we're seeing massive funding rounds fueling cutting-edge applications, like the French AI voice startup Gradium.
Gradium successfully secured a huge $70 million in seed funding, backed by heavyweight figures like former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. Their goal is profound: to revolutionize voice interaction across sectors like customer service, education, and entertainment.
Creating ultra-realistic, highly efficient digital voices.
Yeah. This demonstrates that investors are still highly confident in foundational AI applications that enhance productivity and user experience. They see voice as the next major interface shift.
But the shadow side of this efficiency gain, the transition toll, is starkly evident. Computer giant HP, Hewlett-Packard, announced plans to slash around 6,000 jobs globally.
Right, as part of their major corporate transition to utilizing AI in their operations and customer service infrastructure.
This is the dual reality laid bare.
It is. This is the critical insight we need to synthesize. While companies invest billions in AI efficiency, NVIDIA, Amazon, Gradium, the automation and optimization driven by that same AI technology leads directly to layoffs in traditional corporate structures like HP.
Particularly in middle management, HR, and specific IT support roles. The value is flowing massively into the intellectual property, the software, and the chips, while traditional corporate structure skills rapidly depreciate.
It creates a painful, immediate transition for thousands of white-collar workers. But the common narrative that AI only create high-tech, white-collar coding jobs is rapidly being challenged by another stunning trend.
The blue-collar AI gold rush.
Exactly, the physical reality of the digital world.
This circles us right back to the data center energy crisis. To house all the hardware needed for AI NVIDIA's chips, Amazon's Trainium, the energy infrastructure, you need massive, specialized physical buildings.
And this has created an unprecedented demand for construction workers to build these gargantuan AI data centers. We're facing an acute labor shortage. Reports indicate we need approximately 439,000 additional skilled workers just to keep up with the build-out globally.
And that's the most fascinating inversion, isn't it? These aren't just minimum wage jobs. We're talking about electrical wiring and specialized plumbing jobs supporting the cooling and power infrastructure of data centers, commanding six-figure salaries.
Absolutely. Think about the complexity of cooling systems for thousands of high-density GPUs or managing the high-voltage power distribution. These are specialty skills. This economic pressure is fundamentally changing the perception of traditionally blue-collar roles within the tech ecosystem.
I recall the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, emphasizing that the future economy will rely heavily on these blue-collar trades, not just high-tech roles. Imagine telling a high school student 10 years ago that being a master electrician or a specialized plumber would be a better guaranteed six-figure path in the tech world than a 4-year software degree. That's a massive cultural and economic inversion.
It is. It's an essential reminder that every digital innovation is ultimately built on a physical foundation of concrete, steel, pipes, and wires. These construction workers are the indispensable, highly paid bedrock of the AI future.
Okay, let's look at some broader market trends reflecting consolidation and shifts in digital platforms.
We see clear consolidation happening across different consumer segments. In the snack market, Jamie Lang's Candy Kittens is acquiring the larger UK snack brand Graze. This reflects a trend of streamlined business models and growing interest in health-oriented snacks under a unified ownership.
And at the high-end luxury level, the Prada Group is flexing its financial muscle, purchasing fashion rival Versace in a deal valued at nearly $1.4 billion.
Right, which signals a strengthening trend of consolidation in luxury goods, where large groups acquire historical brands to boost their market presence and gain control over high-value IP.
On the digital entertainment side, we have a bittersweet moment: the upcoming departure of the sitcom Friends from Netflix UK.
A cultural touchstone. But its departure is a reminder of the relentless churn in the streaming wars as expensive licensing deals expire. The owner of the content is pulling it back, likely for their own platform.
Emphasizing that control over classic content IP is now the primary battleground.
It is. And while one door closes in content, another one opens for commerce on social platforms. Discord, traditionally a communication platform for gamers, is making a significant leap into direct commerce.
Right, they're now allowing users to purchase in-game items directly through the platform, starting with titles like Marvel Rivals.
This is a major strategic pivot. It aims to position Discord not just as a communication tool, but as a full-fledged commerce hub for the gaming community. It's a smart monetization move.
Finally, a quick note on the difficulties facing niche digital applications, even those from highly reputed figures. We're talking about the shutdown of the Panels app by tech creator MKBHD Marquise Brownlee.
Yeah, this symbolizes the harsh reality of a highly saturated market. Even with a stellar reputation and huge audience support, maintaining and monetizing a niche application is incredibly difficult. Consumer expectations are high and the costs are perpetual.
It just shows that even celebrated creators struggle against market realities unless the product achieves massive scale. Okay, the economy is undergoing dramatic changes, but the political world is dealing with perennial issues of conflict and diplomacy. Let's transition now to part 3, geopolitics, conflicts, and accountability.
All right. The focus remains acutely on the war in Ukraine, but we saw a significant diplomatic effort recently. U.S. envoy Witkoff and former senior advisor Kushner arrived in Moscow for crucial high-level discussions with President Putin.
Aimed at outlining pathways for ending the war. The stakes are incredibly high, and the initial read from the White House suggested optimistic sentiments regarding a potential deal.
But here is the critical paradox we have to reconcile. How do we marry that U.S. optimism with the concrete reality of Russia's confident battlefield position? Russian officials have explicitly indicated that Putin is not in any rush to negotiate.
Because they believe they currently hold the upper hand on the battlefield.
Exactly. Which suggests the U.S. optimism might be diplomatic signaling for a domestic audience or European allies, rather than a reflection of reality. Any negotiated settlement under these circumstances would likely require painful concessions from Kyiv.
Concessions they have long refused to make.
And this dynamic contrasts sharply with the reaffirmation of support from core European allies. French President Emmanuel Macron reaffirmed France's commitment to providing continued military and humanitarian assistance to support Ukraine's resistance.
On the other side of that conversation, we have stark warnings coming directly from the Kremlin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a clear warning to Europe, stating bluntly, "If they seek conflict, Russia will defeat you."
Strong language. And this constant tension feeds into broader concerns about Europe's perceived diplomatic standing. There's a persistent warning from international policy experts that if Europe isn't unified and assertive, its geopolitical stance could portray it as dismissive and unserious.
And geopolitical strategy seems to be influencing defense alliances, too. In a significant move toward European defense autonomy, Canada officially joined the European Union's SAFE, that's Security Action, for Europe Defense Financing Program.
That partnership is significant. It aims to bolster defense cooperation, create resilient supply chains for military production, and diminish reliance on the U.S. for security, which became a serious concern under the previous U.S. administration.
So Europe and its allies are actively hardening their position, seeking collective self-reliance.
Exactly.
Moving to the Americas, we have intense scrutiny surrounding controversial U.S. military actions near Venezuela. The current U.S. administration held an Oval Office meeting with key advisors, including Senator Marco Rubio and military advisor Pete Hegseth, to discuss the U.S. stance.
Right, following a reported ultimatum delivered to President Nicolas Maduro to flee the country. The meeting aimed to outline potential actions and solidify the U.S. posture against the Maduro administration.
But the extreme controversy stems from recent U.S. Navy military operations involving 2 strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug boats.
The core issue is the second strike. The White House confirmed that the military authorized the second attack, which allegedly resulted in the deaths of survivors from a prior strike. This specific action, a subsequent strike on an already disabled vessel, is what has drawn intense scrutiny.
And that scrutiny is coming from lawmakers and human rights organizations, suggesting these actions could potentially constitute war crimes. The central ethical dilemma revolves around the rules of engagement in international waters.
And whether a military force is justified in conducting a so-called double-tap strike when there are visible survivors, it reflects a deeper division in the U.S. political landscape regarding the scope of military authority in these operations.
We must report the refutation, though. The White House did step in to address specific reports, confirming that the second strike was ordered by a U.S. Navy commander acting under standard operating procedures.
And critically, they specifically refuted claims suggesting Hegseth, a political appointee, ordered to kill everybody on board.
That's a vital distinction regarding legal accountability. Whether the order originated from a career military commander or a political advisor significantly impacts the legal justification.
Right.
But the scrutiny of the methodology remains intense.
Mm-hmm.
While military actions test international law, domestic accountability challenges the integrity of core institutions.
Yeah.
Let's shift our lens to various international justice systems, starting with the UK's devastating post office scandal.
This is perhaps the UK's most widespread miscarriage of justice in modern history. It stems from a faulty IT system called Horizon, which falsely suggested massive shortfalls in post office branch accounts.
And the fallout led to over 700 sub-postmasters being falsely accused of theft and fraud. Many were incarcerated or driven to bankruptcy and suicide.
It's just a catastrophe. And now this scandal is reaching a new level of accountability. Police are actively considering corporate manslaughter charges against senior executives in the post office.
That's a serious legal step.
It is, because it focuses the investigation on the systemic failures and executive negligence that caused massive, widespread personal harm and, tragically, death. It signals a governmental willingness to hold corporate leaders criminally accountable, not just financially.
Meanwhile, the UK government is proposing highly controversial judicial reforms aimed at reducing court delays. The plan is to scrap jury trials for crimes with sentences under 3 years.
This move has legal experts deeply worried. They fear it could fundamentally erode due process, a right historically rooted in the Magna Carta, by compromising the long-established principle of trial by a jury of peers.
Proponents argue it's necessary for operational efficiency, but opponents emphasize that expediency cannot come at the cost of fundamental rights.
Right. And across the Atlantic, the integrity of the U.S. justice system regarding financial crimes is being questioned following a highly visible intervention from the current administration.
Yes, a convicted investment fraudster who ran a massive Ponzi scheme that defrauded thousands of investors was pardoned and released from his prison sentence just days after it began.
And this controversial release has drawn intense fire from both political sides. Critics argue it profoundly undermines accountability for white-collar crimes and denies justice to the victims. It sets a troubling precedent about executive influence over the legal system.
Finally, on the international front, the International Criminal Court, or ICC, has announced the custody of Khaled Mohammed Ali El-Hishri, a suspected Libyan war criminal.
El-Hishri is accused of severe crimes committed at Libya's Mitiga prison between 2015 and 2020. His custody signals tangible progress in international accountability efforts, reinforcing the ICC's commitment to addressing human rights violations globally.
Okay, now let's look at 2 major Asian powers, India and China, and their strategic maneuvers that are reshaping regional dynamics.
India's long-standing defense relationship with Russia is being formalized and enhanced at the highest levels. Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to visit India on December 4th and 5th.
And the core agenda is extremely significant, isn't it?
It is. It includes the joint production of 5th-generation Sukhoi Su-57 fighter jets, which is vital for India's military strategy. Discussions will also include major strategic infrastructure projects,
like the Chabahar port in Iran and the Chennai-Vladivostok trade route. What's the geopolitical significance there?
They are critical for creating multimodal transport networks. The Chabahar port gives India direct sea access to Afghanistan and Central Asia, crucially bypassing Pakistan. The Chennai-Vladivostok route establishes a maritime corridor spanning 5,600 nautical miles, securing supply lines away from Western influence.
So India is actively solidifying strategic trade and defense ties with Russia to offer a counterbalance in the region.
Precisely. And in stark contrast to this deepening partnership, we see increasing tension manifesting as economic disruption between China and Japan.
Political tensions over Taiwan have led to a sharp increase in China-Japan flight cancellations.
Over 40% of scheduled flights in December have been scrapped. Beijing issued travel warnings following remarks by the Japanese Prime Minister regarding potential military intervention in a Taiwan scenario.
And Chinese tourism is visibly shifting as a result. Instead of Japan, Chinese tourists are now favoring Russia,
which has conveniently relaxed visa policies to capitalize on the geopolitical rift. This shift underscores how diplomatic disputes immediately translate into economic consequences, affecting lucrative industries like tourism and aviation.
Geopolitics is truly dictating everything. Let's move to part 4, where we focus on major global challenges related to health, the environment, and some surprising social structures.
Sounds good.
The World Health Organization, the WHO, has made a landmark decision, officially recognizing obesity as a chronic disease that affects over 1 billion people globally.
This is a crucial step towards destigmatization, ensuring patients receive comprehensive, long-term treatment. And following this recognition, the WHO is endorsing the broader use of GLP-1 weight loss medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide as effective options.
But the issue, as we see with so many breakthrough technologies, is access. The WHO warns that demand severely exceeds the current pharmaceutical supply.
And the forecast is alarming. Less than 10% of eligible people may access these drugs by 2030. This access problem is directly exacerbating existing health inequality, ensuring that only the wealthy have sustained access.
And this creates a severe public health risk we must acknowledge: the rising prevalence of dangerous counterfeit GLP-1 products.
A huge problem. Counterfeit drugs can contain incorrect dosages or harmful substances, necessitating urgent, strict regulatory frameworks to prevent a secondary health crisis.
On a separate but related note regarding global health funding, there are alarming warnings about the dismantling of the United States Agency for International Development, or USA, and its global health programs.
Yeah, experts warn that diminished funding linked to the influence of some figures in U.S. politics could deal a heavy blow to established global health programs. The specific concern is that this lack of support could reverse decades of hard-won progress made in combating HIV/AIDS worldwide.
Okay, let's turn to the planet itself, starting with a continent we barely knew existed until recently: Zealandia.
Zealandia, the mostly submerged eighth continent. A new mapping project led by GNS Science, using advanced underwater sonar, confirms its massive size, 4.9 million square kilometers, almost the size of India, and, crucially, its thick crust.
And only about 6% of Zealandia is visible above sea level, primarily New Zealand's islands. This comprehensive mapping revitalizes discussions about continental drift and plate tectonics.
It literally reshapes how we perceive our planet's structure.
And while Zealandia is mostly submerged safely, the stability of our current coastlines is facing catastrophic risk due to accelerating sea level rise.
A critical U.S. study highlights the acute vulnerability of 5,500 hazardous sites across the country that face significant coastal flooding risk by 2100.
This isn't just about erosion, it's about environmental justice and public health. Flooding these sites, which often contain industrial waste, heavy metals, or petroleum products, leads to massive pollutant dispersal.
Right, posing severe long-term health risks, particularly in marginalized coastal communities where these hazardous sites were often originally located.
And we see the devastating consequences of ignored safety standards in densely populated urban areas overseas. The apartment fire tragedy in Hong Kong, which tragically killed 151 people, is a stark reminder.
Officials found that unsafe netting and other substandard materials were utilized at the fire site, which significantly contributed to the rapid spread and high casualty count. This led the Hong Kong government to order a judge-led inquiry into supervisory failures and safety standards.
Okay, turning to biological science, let's discuss cognitive decline. Recent findings have brought much-needed attention to LATE, which stands for limbic-predominant age-related TDP-43 encephalopathy.
LATE is a different type of dementia that often mimics Alzheimer's disease, leading to potential misdiagnosis. It's driven by the accumulation of a protein called TDP-43, not the amyloid plaques typically associated with Alzheimer's.
Why is this differentiation so crucial for policy?
Recognizing the complexity that Alzheimer's isn't the only type of cognitive decline is paramount because the diseases have different origins and thus require different treatment strategies. This new understanding is reshaping policy, urging updated strategies for research into specific biomarkers and better mental health support.
That makes perfect sense. Targeted solutions are always better. Finally, let's circle back to the behavioral science that started our deep dive. The surprising anecdote about our primate cousins.
The wild chimp cocktail hour.
Exactly. Researchers studying their feeding habits found that wild chimpanzees regularly consume enough alcohol from ripe, fermenting fruits to average the equivalent of 2 cocktails daily.
2 cocktails? That's a significant amount of ethanol consumption.
What does this tell us beyond the fact that chimps enjoy a good buzz?
This offers unique insights into primate diet and behavior, particularly the presence and effectiveness of the enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase in their systems, which breaks down alcohol. It suggests a level of alcohol tolerance and consumption previously unappreciated by researchers.
And it complicates the traditional lifestyle aspect of our own relationship with alcohol.
It does. It indicates that the consumption of fermenting fruit, and thus low-level intoxication, has been a factor in primate evolution for millennia.
It definitely adds a fun, slightly sobering wrinkle to evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
Now let's transition into the flow of global money and cultural currents in Part 5.
Right?
Financial behavior is shifting fundamentally, largely driven by Generation Z's relationship with currency. Their perspective on physical cash is telling.
They view cash as humorously outdated, referring to it as money that doesn't exist or fake money.
Because it's not immediately trackable or spendable via mobile app.
Exactly. This cultural and economic shift prioritizes digital currency, mobile payments, and online banking. It signals a seismic change in financial behavior away from tangible currencies towards purely digital assets.
And this rapid adaptation seems to be paying dividends in retirement preparedness. A Vanguard report revealed a massive disparity. Gen Z is actually surging ahead of older generations in saving strategies.
That's counterintuitive given the massive student debt they face. How are they pulling ahead?
They are adapting faster to modern, often digital saving strategies, like automated 401k or investment contributions, often starting immediately in their first job. They understand compound interest better and are comfortable with digital investment platforms.
While older generations face increasing costs and longer life expectancies with less adaptive saving methods.
Right, creating a new savings gap based on digital fluency. Meanwhile, significant investment is moving into leisure and entertainment infrastructure. New York City is set to welcome 3 major casinos.
This is poised to have substantial implications for tourism and job creation. The approved locations include a massive new facility near the Met Stadium, owned by Steve Cohen, and another bid that benefits the Trump Organization.
This political alignment signals a major shift in urban gaming policy, intended to boost local tax revenue and tourism figures.
And on the volatile side of finance, Bitcoin briefly dipped below $85,000, contributing to a broader cryptocurrency rout.
This volatility reflects several factors: investor concerns about tightening global regulatory issues, the inherent risks of market speculation, and ongoing macroeconomic pressures.
Right. And Michael Saylor's company, MicroStrategy, announced a substantial $1.44 billion reserve to defend its massive Bitcoin holdings amid a slump in its stock performance. This defensive move is significant.
College football is never short on drama, and the situation involving Coach Lane Kiffin is a perfect storm of controversy, money, and ethical questions.
Kiffin signed a lucrative $13 million deal with LSU while still coaching Ole Miss, managing both programs simultaneously with the help of mentors like Nick Saban and the media attention provided by ESPN.
The optics and the logistical nightmare were unprecedented.
The situation reflects the insane financial stakes and hypercapitalization of college football. Kiffin will even receive bonuses tied to Ole Miss's performance in the college football playoff, even though he's coaching elsewhere.
This duality, profiting from a team he abandoned, sparked massive fan backlash. Kiffin himself claimed he faced extreme backlash from Ole Miss fans, alleging dangerous confrontations.
It just illustrates the emotional investment of fans colliding with the business-first approach of coaches who view these jobs purely as contracts.
In the realm of national resilience, we have Haiti. Amidst the ongoing severe security and humanitarian crisis, the national soccer team, led Grenadier, qualified for the 2026 World Cup.
Their first appearance since 1974.
That is a powerful symbol of unity, perseverance, and hope. The team was forced to play their qualifying matches in Curaçao due to the violence at home. making their achievement a profound testament to rising above unimaginable obstacles.
Turning to the arts, we see cultural critique causing major disruption. The 2026 Angoulême International Comics Festival in France, one of the world's most prestigious comics events, was officially canceled.
Following a major boycott by artists as authors, the artists were protesting the management's perceived lack of diversity and poor handling of marginalized voices and inclusion issues.
This highlights the growing demands for equality and representation in creative spaces and demonstrates the power of a unified creative community to challenge institutional management.
And the repression of artists remains a tragic global reality, specifically in Iran. Acclaimed Iranian director Jafar Panahi was sentenced by the Iranian government to 1 year in prison in absentia for propaganda activities.
Panahi is known internationally for confronting censorship and social injustices in his work. This ruling has sparked international outrage and highlights the ongoing repression faced by artists and dissidents who advocate for freedom of expression.
Let's circle back to UK governance and the financial turmoil surrounding the Office for Budget Responsibility, or OBR. The head of the OBR resigned following the premature publication of an essential budget document.
For listeners unfamiliar with the OBR, it's the independent public body responsible for providing official economic forecasts. Their independence and integrity are paramount. The premature release of their data was a major political crisis.
And this resignation immediately sparked the political confrontation. The Conservative Party accused the government of lying about public finances, while the Labour Party publicly defended the budget.
This scrutiny was intensified when certain commentators suggested that Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves was misleading the public on one specific fiscal point. However, a high-ranking OBR official later contradicted this, stating that Reeves did not mislead the public.
The political landscape is intensely focused on the perceived integrity and transparency of financial communication. And finally, a quick note on political division in Central America. The presidential race in Honduras remains intensely tight.
The two right-wing presidential contenders are locked in a technical tie according to the preliminary vote count. This intense competition reflects ongoing political divisions and generates heightened tension, with the electoral authority facing massive pressure to ensure transparency.
We've spanned the cosmos, dissected the AI economy's dramatic shifts, analyzed international conflicts, and looked at the integrity of global justice systems. Now, for our final synthesis and provocative thought.
Let's bring it all together.
What an immense journey we've taken today, highlighting the constant tension between innovation and infrastructure. From the one-atom-thick breakthrough of graphene to the terrifying reality that the energy demands of future tech, the 1300 DWH projected for data centers, are already hiking up consumer electricity prices.
The connection between that AI energy demand and the push for new, sustainable, and rapid energy storage solutions is the most enduring insight. We also saw persistent friction in geopolitics. The high-level talks between the U.S. and Russia contrast sharply with Putin's declaration that he's not in any rush to negotiate,
Showing that diplomatic accountability is always an ongoing, frustrating struggle against battlefield reality.
It is.
The dark side of consolidation and automation is also a major takeaway. The HP layoffs, due to AI efficiency gains, stand in stark opposition to the six-figure salaries commanded by the essential, skilled, blue-collar construction workers needed to actually build the physical AI ecosystem.
The labor market is being fundamentally redefined beneath our feet. And we can't forget the fragility of global supply chains, whether it's for essential public health treatments like GLP-1 weight loss drugs, where global shortages are warning of deep health inequality.
And driving a dangerous counterfeit market.
Right. Or the ongoing struggle for transparency and governance and justice, from the systemic post office scandal in the UK to the controversial financial pardons in the US. These struggles for institutional integrity are non-negotiable.
So let's leave you with one final thought to mull over, connecting the highly prioritized topics of science, space, and our current terrestrial infrastructure challenges.
Okay.
We discussed the new state of quantum matter discovered at the University of California, Irvine, notable for its resilience to radiation, making it ideal for self-charging deep space electronics. We also talked about the concept of future astronauts using local biological solutions like Martian bacteria to create materials for self-sustaining habitats.
Right. Thinking about this resilience and extraterrestrial ingenuity, what terrestrial technologies currently facing massive infrastructure and energy constraints, like those sprawling, power-hungry data centers, will first be successfully modeled and rebuilt using extraterrestrial materials and bioengineered solutions like Martian bacteria?
Will we finally perfect the sustainable data center by designing it for the harsh, constrained environment of another planet, only to export the solution back to Earth? Or must we physically colonize other worlds just to find a truly sustainable model for our exponential digital growth?
It's a reflection on long-term sustainability and colonization. The constraints we face here might only be solvable by looking far beyond the blue horizon.
What a question. We hope this deep dive has given you a coherent understanding of the forces shaping our world today. Until next time, keep digging.
Keep seeking knowledge.
For enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.